Good morning. This show comes from a viewer who actually, I was putzing around Facebook on Sunday because on Sunday I'm a football widow and my team wasn't playing. So the Eagles had a bye, and I was messing around on Facebook and I came across this amazing post from my friend Barbara, who wrote something that I've shared her opinion on this topic for a long time, but I really didn't say too much about it because I was afraid of offending some people who I love and some of my family members even. But the topic is an obsession with ancestry. Now, we've all seen those commercials, right? The one where the guy goes, "Oh, I grew up. was told I was German. I wore lederhosen. I danced in a German dance troupe." And then he spit in a tube and went away and sent his DNA away. And he found out he was part Irish or Scottish. And he said, "I traded my lederhosen in for a kilt." Like this guy really runs around wearing lederhosen or kilts. But anyway, um, what Barbara wrote in her post, and it is on my timeline, but because of her privacy settings, they're a little different than mine. I'm not sure you're able to see it and read it, but if you can, it's a really good read. It really was very interesting what she had to say. And here's my take on all of this. Your ancestry, to some of you, may be very important, but like Barbara and I, and many of Barbara's friends who commented on her post, it's like, who cares? Does it really matter? And I guess this is what we're going to ask on the show today, but we're also going to delve in to this, what has become a big business, which is 23andMe and Ancestry.com, where basically you spit in a tube or something and you mail it off, and then you pay them and they send you your results. And I'm going to start with this because this can be very scary if you really think about what you're really doing. And let's talk about for a minute what DNA actually is. What DNA is basically, it's you. Your DNA is unlike anyone else's in the entire world unless you have a twin. And let's talk about the legal system. If the government or the police want your DNA, they have to get a court order in order to get it. Okay? They have to go to a judge. They have to have probable cause in order to force you to give a DNA sample, unless you give it over willingly. This is where my fear about these businesses comes in. Okay? If you drink out of a cup at the police station or on the street, or you smoke a cigarette and you throw the butt on the ground, your DNA is on those things. And if you throw them into the trash and they go out in public domain, the police or anyone else can take that DNA and they can use it because you voluntarily threw it in the public domain. And my thought is this Ancestry.com, 23andMe, you are willingly giving them your DNA, and you don't know who these people are. Now, we have seen situations in which criminals, the FBI and law enforcement, has tried to get into their phones because they're password protected. And the phone providers have fought this. But my question now is, with this 23andMe and Ancestry.com, could law enforcement or the federal government even suspect you of something and you're like, no, I'm not giving up my DNA. You have to get a court order, probable cause. But wait a minute. They can just type in Ancestry DNA or 23andMe and possibly say, has Paula Luciano ever voluntarily submitted a DNA sample to you? Well, that means we can take it and we can compare it to our crime scene. That scares me because we all know, look what happened with Equifax. People using Equifax have had their social security numbers, their accounts hacked by criminals. their identity stolen. There was also a commercial about a man whose identity was stolen, and the person who stole his identity got arrested and gave his name. And when his boss did a background check on him, he found out that he has a criminal past. And this guy didn't know what he was talking about. And the boss said, you have 1 week to clear this up, or you're fired because you have warrants out for your arrest. What would happen if someone at Ancestry.com or 23andMe decided to use my DNA sample? Sure, I get my results back, but maybe they save a little bit, and all of a sudden my DNA is at a crime scene in California or North Dakota. I'm going to have police officers knocking on my door. Now, I've never been to North Dakota. I've never been to California. But if my DNA is at a crime scene there, I'm going to have to answer some questions. And to me, that's a little bit scary. It is. It's scary. And it is something you all should think about when you decide to do your ancestry or see what your ethnic background is. Because what Barbara and I both are trying to say is, what does it matter? Okay? And I think that's the next part of this show is, okay, so I was raised, and believe me, there is such a thing as ethnic snobbery. Believe me, there is. Yeah, we're Irish. We're German. We're Greek. I had the Greek part. So my whole childhood, all I was told was, we're Greek. We're proud of it. Greek, 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 Greek. Well, I kept saying, well, no, see, I'm American. I'm American. My mother's American. My father's American. My grandmother's American. I'm an American girl. But it was more important for them to raise me as a Greek girl instead of an American girl. And that is where ethnic snobbery comes in. Here's the thing. I don't live my life as a Greek girl. I love Greek food. I love Greek music. But see, I also love Italian food. I love Indian food. I'm sure if I had my DNA tested, I don't think I'm Indian. I love Thai food. I love Chinese food. I love Japanese food. But like, I love all food. And I also love Arabic music. And I love Italian music. I am very eclectic. So whatever blood is running through my veins has not made me the person I am today. And I do think that that's an important thing to say, because I have become the person I am not because of where my ancestors came from, not because of who my great, 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 great somebody who has been dead before, long before I was even thought of or born, before my mother was born, before my grandmother was born. I'm not who I am because of them. I may have parts of their DNA running through my body, but they haven't influenced the way that I live my life. I influence the way that I live my life. My life experiences that I have shared with many of you, many of them you know about, have shaped me and made me the person that I am today. So when people are so, to the point of, as Barbara writes, obsessed with finding out every single person in their family tree or going back hundreds of years, why? And what Barbara said, and I want to make sure you understand this, because neither Barbara nor myself are trying to offend anybody. Barbara did, she even said, and I quote this, I'm an idiot in this. This is what Barbara wrote. I don't get it. I'm not trying to be political or offensive to anyone. It's a great hobby. Family trees are great. Knowing what everybody, who's related to who and whose father and who this and that. It's fun. Until it turns into something that's not fun anymore, because it's a constant obsession. It's all anybody talks about. And look, I'm not trying to offend anybody. Please understand, this is my personal opinion. And it was just by happenstance that I found somebody, a group of people who shared my opinion of this. I have been to family gatherings where our family is huge. It is really huge. And we don't get together very often. especially my generation. And I'm 53. I'm one of the oldest of my generation. And I've got cousins that I absolutely adore, but I never get to talk to. And I rarely get to see. And so when there's a family gathering and they're all there, I want to talk to them. And sometimes instead, they're sitting around a table looking at pictures or videos or things about pictures of people that they will never meet because those people have been dead for 100 years. And they're talking about dead people. And I'm not talking about dead people that they actually met and knew, people who have died during their lifetime. I'm talking about great, great, great people who have no influence on our lives that we're never going to meet. And they're talking about that instead of sitting at that table and talking to each other about our lives, about what we're doing, catching up, about what we may have in common. Restaurants we like. Oh, you like that restaurant? So do I. Maybe we could get together next week and go out to dinner together and catch up and really talk and get to know one another, because we don't know each other. And it's a shame that we don't. So on those few occasions when we are all in the same room together, should we be so obsessed with what was in the past, what we will never be a part of? Or should we be talking about today? As Barbara said, I want to talk about today because I don't want to worry about the past. And people say all the time, don't dwell on the past. But many people who are obsessed with their ancestry and where they've come from and who their great somebodies were, they are obsessed with the past instead of what's here right now in front of you. And we all know life is short. In our family alone, we have lost many people in the past 15 years alone. And it is sad when you realize that you have questions for those people and you never got to ask those questions because you were busy doing something else. Or when you did get together, you talked about something else. It is fun to know where you came from. It really is. But it can't be the only thing you ever talk about. And your ethnicity, oh, you're Greek or you're Italian or you're Irish or you're German, who cares? And let's not confuse your ethnicity with your religion. A religion is a choice. Because we were Greek growing up, I was raised in the Greek Orthodox Church. I do not attend the Greek Orthodox Church. I made a choice not to attend that church. If I wanted to become Catholic, I could go to a Catholic church and become Catholic. If I wanted to become Jewish, I could go to a temple and do whatever it takes to become Jewish. You can choose your religion. So your ethnicity has nothing to do with your religion. There are many Russian people. The main religion in Russia is Russian Orthodox, but not all Russians practice Russian Orthodoxy. So let's not say that, okay, so say you do your ancestry and it comes back, well, you're not 100% Greek. It doesn't mean you can't be Greek Orthodox. And if part of your ancestry comes back that you're 10% Jewish, it doesn't mean you can't be a Christian. See, this is where this ancestry thing can get a little snarky because some people are going to be upset. I can just imagine a white supremacist doing their Ancestry.com and finding out that they're 12% black. That could cause some problems in their head. And there's nothing wrong with being 12% black in my mind. Wouldn't bother me in the least. I would actually probably be proud of it. But it would bother some people in our country, and you know it would. And some of you know who you are. That would be a problem for you. I think there are even some Christians that if they find out they're even 1% Jewish, they might freak out. So if you're going to do these tests and you're going to pay the money and you're going to put your DNA in strangers' hands, you better be prepared for what you're going to get. And then you're also going to have remember that the people who are doing these tests are human. And just like I had the bad pap smear that was a lab mistake, these people can make mistakes too. Now, ironically enough, I just saw a show. Megyn Kelly had these twins, identical twins, who were separated in Seoul, South Korea, 32 years ago. And they did 23andMe. And for the first time in 32 years, they were in the same room together. That's a good reason to do these DNA tests. If you think you have a sibling out there that you were separated from because of adoption or some other unforeseen circumstance, and you want to find a living, breathing person, I think that's awesome. If you're adopted and you want to find your real birth biological parents, by all means, that's a good reason to use this if it's important to you, to find living, breathing people. I can see it even being used as an organ donor, live organ donor. If someone needs a kidney, put your DNA in there and see if someone out there who is a match might want to donate a kidney or bone marrow. That's a good way to use it. But I think my point is, and I'm going to open this up to all of you to comment on. And again, don't make nasty comments. I'm not insulting anybody, really. But I want to know if you really believe that your ethnicity defines who you are. That if you woke up tomorrow and you found out you're not Greek, but you've lived as a Greek all your life, would your life be over? Would it destroy you? I mean, if you enjoy the life that you live as a Greek person, what does it matter what's in your blood? What's in your DNA? If you have lived your whole life thinking you were Irish and you somehow find out that you're, I don't know, Italian, your family came from Italy, does it mean you don't eat the food anymore? You don't enjoy the Irish jig? You don't like St. Patrick's Day? No. No. It just means that it's not your DNA. It doesn't mean it's not you, because only you decide who you are. I can promise you this. I do not know whose DNA is running through my blood. I'm assuming it's my mother's and my father's. But I don't know much about my father's background because he was kept from me for most of my childhood. And that was because, my grandmother hated his guts and she was the boss. Anyway, that's another story, and some of you have already heard that. The bottom line is I don't care, because I know for a fact who my mother was, and I know enough about my father to know how he lived his life, and I know for a fact that I'm not like either one of them. The way that I live my life, my beliefs, the way that I speak, this show, my blogs, no way. My mother would never have signed off on any of this stuff. A lot of the things that I write about and talk about, she would be appalled. But I think she would be proud because I've done something that she was never able to do. And that's speak up for myself, stand up for myself, not be manipulated by others with their own agendas. But I certainly did not inherit that from any DNA. Believe me. Believe me. And my grandmother was a manipulator. I don't believe that I am a manipulator, so I'm not like her either. I do have some of her phobias, but that's not DNA. That's the fact that they were drilled into me from the day I was born until the day she died. So for 20-some years, she drilled her phobias into me, and some of them took. So yeah, I do double check that the stove's off, and I do worry about certain things that I probably should not worry about because she was paranoid. She was probably a paranoid schizophrenic. But that's not DNA. That's environment. That's how I was raised in the home by an actual human being that's alive. So look, I really want to put this out there to you. And let me know, is it important to you that, you have some kind of paper that says, yes, sir, you are 100% Greek. You are 100% German. You are what your family told you you are. Is that important to you? And if you found out through this test that you weren't what your family has told you you are, how would you react? Would you be upset? Would you trade in your lederhosen for a kilt like the dude on the commercial does, which I think is ridiculous? Would you stop eating the foods you love? Would you stop listening to the music you listen to? How would it change you? And remember this too, with every good intention, there is a risk. And what I just said to you in the beginning of this show, they are real risks. When you spit in a tube, you are voluntarily sending something that is only you, that defines you, to a stranger. And once it goes out in the mail, you have no idea where it's going, who's going to be looking at it, and how it's going to be used when they're done with it. You can sign all the paperwork you want, but you will never know. To me, I would rather not be 200%, 5,000% sure of what my ancestry is. I'd rather keep my DNA right where it belongs. In here. And only give it up when I have a court order in front of me for probable cause. To me, my DNA is as precious as my passwords, my privacy settings. Very important. And I'm not just going to spit in a tube and send it off to God knows where, to God knows who, just to find out what my ancestry is. Because when I see that piece of paper, I'm not going to automatically change the way that I am. It's not going to affect me in any way. I don't care who my great anybody was. I don't really care who anybody was who's dead that I've never met in my family. That might make me a terrible person, or it just might make me pragmatic, realistic. Because if they're dead and I've never met them, there's no way that they can help me or teach me anything or show me anything that's going to mean anything to me or be a chapter in a book of my life, because they have never been part of my life. And just because I may have their blood running through my veins, it doesn't matter, because I am who I am. DNA doesn't mean anything. I'm just me. Take it or leave it. I'm me. And I think it's more important to be me than to worry so much about who people think I am, or a title or a label, like Paula's Greek, or Jason's Puerto Rican, or Jason's Italian, because he's a little bit of both, we think. He hasn't done his DNA either. Again, just be cautious. Make sure if you're doing these tests that you do them for the right reasons. And remember that whatever result you get, you did this voluntarily. And if you think you're going to be upset by the results, or you're one of these people that are what I call ethnic snobs, and will be really upset if the results don't come back as you were hoping they would, just don't do it. Because at the end of the day, you are who you are. Look in your mirror, as I always say. Tell yourself, I am beautiful, I am strong, I am smart, I am important, and I love me. Political Paula's out.